What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Hoops Crush podcast. I'm Eric Brandt. He's Brady Parks, aka Crushables. And today's episode, we're just going to be talking about the playoffs once again. All but one of the first round series is now over as we are filming this after the Dallas Mavericks eliminate the Los Angeles Clippers on Friday night. And so we know all but one of the second round matchups. We'll talk about some of the eliminated teams and what they should do in this offseason. And lots of interesting storylines going on around the NBA. But Brady, how are you doing tonight? How's your week been? All that stuff.
I'm doing very good. Basketball's been very enjoyable. Knicks 76ers series was probably one of my favorite series I've ever seen. Absolutely incredible. Really unfortunate we didn't get a game 7, but I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Just looking forward to this weekend. Um, watching some basketball, although there won't be any games tomorrow. Have to
Well,
wait
though
for.
they're starting Nuggets and Wolves tomorrow
Oh yeah,
actually.
Nuggets Wolves
Yeah.
actually game one. I
Mhm.
meant we would have gotten that game 7 you were referring to tomorrow. With in the Garden, that would have been
Yeah.
an epic game. I think we all got cheated out of that one because
Yeah,
that
same.
series deserved to go 7. But can't complain. It was 6 great games in that one. Um, but yeah, let's start. Let's just start right there. So the Knicks win in 6 games. Jalen Brunson, of course, has a fantastic series. Josh Hart with the dagger 3, or the go-ahead 3 at the end of Game 6. Uh, what did you think of that game? And be trying to gut it out through obvious injuries. Um, Maxi going off at the end of game 5, pulling his best Dame impression. Just that whole series was so fun, man. And then um, the 76ers got like nothing from some of their other guys outside of Maxi and Embiid in game 6. Tobias Harris, I think, pulled an offer.
0 for
Um,
2 from the field.
yeah,
It's crazy. $39
didn't
million,
contribute.
like shooting twice. And yeah. And Kenny said this a lot on his podcast because I listened to him too. He was like, I don't even remember his first shot, and I literally don't either. I remember just cringing when he had to take one of the clutch shots at the end. I was like, oh god, not Tobias Harris, and he did miss it. But yeah, this series was crazy, man. Just back and forth. Every single game was close. Just a battle of just inches basically. Game 5 seemed like it was over. Then Maxi hits an and 3, then hits a half court 3. I'm like, dude, this series is insane. But I thought, and then even game 6, when I thought it was all but over, the 76ers, tie the game at the end. Josh
Mhm.
Hart hits the dagger 3. Really unfortunate. Joel Embiid, man, like the 76ers have so many questions to ask themselves this offseason because Embiid is just one of those players, as talented as he is, and he is really very, very talented, one of the best centers in the NBA. He just can never be healthy at this time of the year, it feels like. Tobias Harris is all but gone. Buddy Hield actually had a good game 6, so that's great. I don't know what happens with him, but he was
Thought the
unplayable
rest
for.
of the series.
Yeah, he was unplayable for most of the series, but yeah, Embiid, despite the box score, what it shows you in game 6, in the final few minutes of the game, it felt like he was deferring a lot, and I don't know if that I know he's not healthy, fully healthy. He had the palsy thing, and then he just seemed completely gassed. And then one thing I was also reflecting on in this series, because Jalen Brunson, I believe, once again had like a 40-point outing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 41 points. It was like just so crazy to know where Jalen Brunson came from, because I almost forgot he even came from Dallas. And
Yeah.
when Jalen Brunson first signed with or when he left the Mavericks to go to the Knicks, I never thought Brunson would be this damn good. Like, it's kind of crazy how good he is. I personally never saw it coming. Maybe some people did, but I thought, that's a great point guard for them because they had a point guard problem for years. And I thought that'd be a fine starter, and that's great. Never thought we'd see him be this damn good. And shout out to the Knicks because they finally found their point guard, for their franchise.
Yeah, I think anyone who says that they saw him being this good is lying. Like MVP type All NBA candidate. But there were a lot of people, myself included, that did not think that was necessarily a bad move by the Knicks or an overpay or anything like that. Um, and what clinched it for me was in their Western Conference Finals run, the Mavericks. Um, Luca missed a couple games, or at least one game in the
Yeah.
first round, and Brunson had a big game. And when you show that on the biggest stage in the playoffs, I think they're playing Utah in that series. I
Yeah,
think.
it was
Uh,
Utah.
when you show that, like, that was still Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and
Gobert,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So, good defensive team. When you can put on that type of performance against a team like that in the playoffs, that's how I know you're a legit player. So, he showed some things that season. Um, the rumor is that I think it was somewhere around 64 million for 4 years or something. Jalen asked Dallas for an extension, and Dallas was like, "No, we're not going to sign you to that. We'll take our chances and see what happens in the offseason." And that just looks like a horrible decision looking back.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it does definitely.
it might look like it's kind of working out for Dallas now because they have Kyrie, and obviously they wouldn't have traded for him if they had Brunson still. But Brunson also probably needed to go to his own
Yeah, I was
own
gonna
team
say, I don't know if
to
he ever
kind of
would have.
flourish.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever became this. Just like
Mm,
kind of like how James Harden left OKC. I don't think he ever would have became that in Oklahoma City behind Westbrook and Durant.
right.
I think Brunson doesn't become like this if he's still playing with Luca. So
Hmm.
it's just one of those things where you're Dallas and you're like, yep, that I guess that's just how good he was, but it never would have happened here. That's what I'd be
How?
saying. That's what I'd be telling myself
Yeah.
anyway if I'm
Right.
Dallas.
Yeah. Halbert and Fox probably have that a little bit of that too
Yeah,
in
that too.
Sacramento. Uh, yeah. If I'm a Kings fan, that's also what I'm telling myself. Right. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't value paying or overpaying at the time, I guess, for another point guard who needs the ball in his hands to be effective. But I mean, don't get it twisted. Jason Brunson is a winner, man. He won in college. He won, or he has shown that he can carry a team and win playoff games in the NBA now. Um, and Knicks have gotten out of the first round 2 years in a row. So yeah, just impressive stuff out of him. And they are going to face the Indiana Pacers in the
Yep.
second round. The Pacers are coming off a Game 6 win at home against the Bucks. Giannis doesn't play the entire series. Dame tries to play Game 6. Um, he played okay, but they just didn't have it in that game and ended up bowing out. Disappointing into the season for them, which we'll get to later. But the Pacers, man, they were hyped. I almost feel like, I mean, Knicks fans celebrated like they won the championship as well. So I guess you can't read too much into it. But the Pacers themselves, I feel like the players have already feel like they accomplished something this season. And to me, I've seen a lot of teams over the years have that happen where they win a playoff series or make the playoffs, and that's seems to be their goal. And then they're just content with that from there. So I don't know if that's going to happen with the Pacers, but I could very easily see them getting beat by the Knicks and just kind of being, well, we didn't make the playoffs for 10 years. We won a first round matchup on our first time back. Um, Unlike the Kings last year, who lost in the first round, albeit in 7 games. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see if the uh, the Pacers come out and play the Knicks tough, or if they're just kind of happy to be there at this point.
Yeah, I think this series is going to be kind of fun. I'm not really sure what to expect. I do believe the Knicks will win the series, like no matter what. That's like, as far as how many games, I'm not sure what I'm leaning towards right now. But yeah, I mean, when you have Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell scoring, both respectfully 20 off the bench, probably not going to be a good night for you. Unfortunately, Milwaukee, just yeah, then they just didn't have a great game 6. Game 5 was awesome because obviously they pushed it to a game 6. There was optimism that both Dame and Giannis would play. Of course, Giannis did not get to play. Dame, played, albeit probably not fully healthy. But yeah, the Pacers, man, successful season for them. You play who's in front of you, so no one could really take that away from them. You can say whatever you want. Giannis wasn't healthy, you never would have won, but the Pacers can't control that. So, but yeah, I mean, the Pacers, absolutely terrific game out of them. They closed it out at home. They don't have to worry about going to Game 7 where maybe Giannis would have played. Potentially. So I think the Pacers took care of business, and you almost sometimes forget, I forget that Mathurin isn't playing for them right now. Totally forget.
Yeah.
I forget about that all the time. So that could be huge for them next year having him back. I don't know if they're going to be looking to add more to this team, but yeah, I think this is probably where the road stops. Maybe they somehow get out of round 2, but I highly doubt it. I think this is the Knicks' year to at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. So, um, it's kind of crazy thinking of the Knicks as a Eastern Conference Finals team because going into the season, they won the first round matchup against the Cavs last year, but I mean, not a lot of people predicted them to be like an Eastern Conference Finals team. You had the question marks in Philly with James Harden going into the season, and so I saw them kind of all over the map in terms of predictions in the East, and then you had the Miami Heat didn't really do much this past summer, but they made the finals, right? So some people varied on where they placed them in terms of the Knicks, Heat, and 76ers. And then even though they lost to the Knicks last year, some people had the Cavs higher than the Knicks. Um, so it's kind of crazy to think of them as an Eastern Conference finalist if they win this series. But man, that team just they don't play a lot of guys,
No,
but
no, they don't.
the
It's worked
guys who
so
play,
far for
man,
them.
yeah, they give it their all, and they have it's just like the right mix of guys who just do their job and do all the dirty work, and a guy like Jalen Brunson who just takes over games and makes everything else happen. And then OG, um, that trade has been awesome for them. Um, he's hurt for a little bit towards the end of the season, but when he's played for the Knicks, they've been dang good and tough to beat. And also, I mean, Bogdanovich got hurt as well. I don't know if he's going to be available to play or whatnot, but he didn't even play in the last few games of that series. So they might still have some more firepower. I'm not sure. Was he out for the season? Do you remember?
I don't know. I can't remember if they said he's out for the season or not. I know he left very early. He came in the game and got hurt right away by Batum, I think it was, and then he missed the next game. So I don't
Yeah.
know if he's out for the series or not.
Yep. So we'll obviously be talking about this series in future episodes as it goes on. But now let's focus on the two teams that are out. The Philadelphia 76ers are one of the biggest players in the offseason coming up. Bobby Marks had a thing about them saying if they let everyone go like Tobias Harris and Buddy Hield, they could get up to just under 65 million in cap space, which would be enough to go big game hunting for a max contract player. I think we both agree that Paul George would be a pretty good fit there. But they could trade for someone with that cap space as well. So they're not necessarily limited just free agents. Do you think they should go that route and just clear the deck, even if they don't get a big name like Paul George? Do you think they should just move on from those guys who didn't really show anything more than uh, you could probably get for minimum contracts elsewhere in the open market.
So yeah, I think first step, let Tobias Harris walk out the door. Let the door hit him on the way out. Don't bring him back, obviously.
Real quick on that.
Yeah,
If the Pistons, you remember how it was rumored that the Pistons were interested in him at the deadline?
yeah.
Why the heck didn't they like jump on that
I
opportunity?
don't
Like
know. Because they're
as
probably
soon as
like, we
someone,
need. They're probably like, well, he's an expiring contract anyway. We're not
Mhm.
gonna, we need him. Probably need a body for the playoffs because we're not going for a star right now. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
But they probably could have gotten Bogdanovich and Burks for him or something,
Maybe, yeah, they could
and
have potentially. I don't
s
know.
that would have man, as soon as they got a phone call, "Hey, we're interested in Tobias Harris." "Sure, what anything
Yeah,
you want."
yeah, for real. So yeah, let him walk out the door. Spend your money elsewhere. I'm assuming that Tobias is somewhere else as well. Now, the thing is with Philadelphia, again, it just goes back to the Embiid thing because you get to the point where and even David Griffin has said this about the Pelicans. Like they've waited year after year to see this team be healthy, and sometimes you just can't wait anymore. I don't know if the 76ers can say that at this point because Embiid is, talented as he is. I don't think you can just give up on him. But if you go and do everything you can this offseason and then next year we're at the same point where it's the same excuse over and over again where he's not healthy, like I don't know what you do after that. That's
Right.
when the conversation gets really tough. But since you have all this ammunition to try to make things happen, this free agency class isn't great. Paul George has been the big rumor for them. I still don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what Paul George is going to do, but he is an LA guy, and I assume with Kawhi re-signing, he probably does the same thing. But I guess we'll see. The way teams have been built, championship contenders anyway, has been surrounding two good players with really good role players. So I think that's what Philadelphia should be leaning towards, not necessarily the third star. I think you should keep building on Embiid and Maxey and finding as many good role players, above average role players as you can. And I don't have any names at the top of my head, unfortunately. But like that's what I would be going for, trying to fill out your cap space that way instead of just going for like a $50 million type of guy. But that's I would do it if I'm Morey. But we'll see what he does. It's going to be interesting because they could do all of this and trade that Clippers pick that they have in the future that could be valuable later on potentially, and all this other stuff. But if Embiid, once again, next year, you get to the point where you can't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, he's not healthy for the first round, you get bounced in the first round, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. That's all I'll say.
Mhm. Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I think if they get Paul George, they're they're contenders, like,
Yeah, for sure.
um, because he can help take some of the pressure off him, but he also you wouldn't need him to be like a star or whatever. I mean, you just need him to be better than Tobias Harris was, and that's not very hard to do. Um, but I mean, technically, Maxi is a free agent too, but they
Yeah.
have rights to match any contract. So I, but they have this limited thing where, like, once they sign him or someone signs him to an offer sheet, they can't use that. They lose that cap space or a lot of it.
Yeah.
So it's like a one-time thing to have this cap space. Yeah, I don't know what they do. I guess they could make a run after LeBron.
Yeah, I thought about that for a
Yeah.
second, but
Also, Siakam is a free agent
that'd be funny.
on the aforementioned Pacer team. That's someone who would be
Yeah,
uh
but Siakam and OG feel like automatic re-signs to me right now,
yeah.
especially Indiana making the second round and the
Hmm.
Knicks making the second round. I feel like both those guys are going to stay in their
Yeah.
situations.
Do you think DeMar DeRozan is not enough of a role player to go after?
Depending on how much
Is
money he wants, I wouldn't hate that for Philadelphia because he would be the type of guy that could actually run the offense when Embiid is not on the floor, and you could
mhm.
actually rely on him a little bit. How much, DeRozan is quite old though, so I don't know how much longer he's going to be that good. But
Yeah.
as long as he's not wanting max money, I would be interested if I'm Philadelphia. But if he's wanting like, I don't know, like a big contract, I don't know how interested I'm into that if I'm Philly.
Yeah. Um, man, I'm trying to think of someone they could go after. I mean, Klay Thompson would be out
Yeah,
there.
I've thought of that name too. Uh,
Um, someone that they should go after would be a really good role player if he's healthy is Malik Monk.
yeah, that'd be a great like someone like that, man. They just need. I mean, just try to copy the Nuggets, which isn't easy.
Yeah,
You have to take a flyer on a guy that falls in the lottery that was supposed to be a number one pick at one point, and he was everyone was scared because of his back problems, but now he's like a star, pretty much. Like not really an all-star, but I mean, he could be. I don't know. He's so damn good for them,
yeah.
especially in the
Also,
Lakers series.
Caleb Martin's a free agent too. He'd fit well there.
I thought Caleb Martin had
He has a
one more.
player option,
Yeah, player option. Yeah, that's right.
which I'm assuming he's going to decline it. But yeah, they have some options, and then like I said, they can trade using that cap space as well. But yeah, they're going to be. They also have the 16th pick in the draft, so they could add another younger piece and just let it grow and develop. But I'd be kind of surprised if they go that route. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like their strategy. So yeah, look for them to be the team that sets this whole offseason. Like remember in years past where it's like Kawhi Leonard, we have to wait for that domino to fall, or Kevin
Yeah.
Durant, we have to wait for that domino to fall before all these other players can sign. So I
Or the
think it'll
Dame
be
trade. We have to wait for the
yeah,
Dame trade and all this
yeah,
other stuff. Yeah.
and DeAndre Ayton and stuff like that. Like so there's moments that like kind of define off seasons, and I think that'll be the biggest one that either happens or doesn't this off season.
Yeah, for sure. Another team that, also got eliminated, Milwaukee Bucks. Their offseason, I don't think should be that interesting. I could see them making a few moves on if they can. It's gonna be really hard for them to do. But I think everyone freaking out thinking, well, it's the NBA, anything happens, but I just can't personally see Giannis going like, okay, I'm out of here after he didn't play a single
No,
game. Like I think Dame and Giannis run it back. Now, as far as if it's the same supporting pieces around them, maybe they change some things. Maybe you try to trade Middleton. They've shown in the past that they're not opposed to trading guys that the fan base loves. They did with Drew Holiday. So I wouldn't be like, I don't know. It's not going to be easy for them to retool if that's the goal. Maybe they just run it back with the same squad. But yeah, not having Damon Giannis, I think, allows them to just run it back and figure out, I'm sure Ajax would be a bigger rotational piece for them. Maybe Beauchamp can step in a little bit more. You do have Connaughton's salary that maybe could get you something, but yeah, it's not easy. It's not gonna be easy for them to make changes, but I I'm definitely guaranteeing that I think Dame and Giannis are back in Milwaukee next year.
yeah, I loved Dame's mindset after that loss. It could have been a situation where a lot of players would be would sour on their role and stuff for being in Milwaukee, having a season like that where they fire a coach halfway through the season. Dame obviously didn't play up to his expectations, um, and he allegedly promised Doc that he would be back in the best shape of his life next year. He said that not having, not knowing where he was going to play kind of affected his readiness last offseason.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Dame's capable of that, considering he'll be a year older. And as the years go on, we've seen well, I mean, just look at like KD and stuff, which we'll talk about later. But like, there's some players in their mid 30s, James Harden as well, that are showing some signs of not deteriorating or being washed or anything like that, but it's just harder to bring it over a full season when you get up there. So we'll see if Dame is capable of that, but hopefully I just want the Bucks to have one healthy chance. It'd be really cool to just have in general a season where Embiid's healthy in the playoffs and the Bucks are healthy and the Celtics are still good and and we don't have all these injury issues, and we can just like see it play out on the court instead of who's not on the court.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, they definitely need to make as many minor tweaks as possible. I guess the big move they could make is if they wanted to bring in a different type of center, maybe move on from Brook, because he's definitely. I mean, 2 years ago, it's funny. He's what, runner up for Defensive Player of the Year, or something like that. And everyone just assumed that would carry on this year, but he's another one of those guys who's getting up there in age. And when you're a big man and you start to age, like it's tough to protect the rim and move all around the court. You get caught in a lot of pick and rolls, and they play a lot of drop coverage with him. Is that necessarily the best coverage for a team with the other pieces they have defensively? So, yeah, they have some ability to make moves, but the new CBA is going to make it tough. But I
My
think they,
idea that I did in today's video, not to cut you off, but I don't think it's gonna be easy to find another center that can space the floor like Brook Lopez does. Like they don't
yeah,
grow on trees. What if Giannis? And again, I don't know if this would work or not, if we'd be willing. What if Giannis did so? Kind of like what Anthony Davis has done and play some center for Milwaukee? Because I feel like putting Giannis at the 5 and then having a bunch of shooters around him could be deadly.
yeah.
But that's just like if they can't find another center that could, which I think is gonna be hard for them to do. But I don't know. That was my idea. That's what I did in today's video because I was like, man, I don't know how you get another 5 who can space the floor outside of Brook Lopez here. But
So who are they trading Brook for then? If
yeah,
at the 4,
that was a tough one. I'm not sure how you trade Brook Lopez. I didn't even like the trade that I did. It wasn't the greatest in the world. So yeah,
well,
Brook Lopez trade is gonna be very hard to do, I think.
once again, we like to give your channel a shout out every episode. So go check out Crushables' channel if you want to see who he is talking about, who he didn't like trading Brook Lopez for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because like Giannis is a decent rebounder, so someone like Jeremy Grant would be perfect. But with the new rules, it's so tough for them to trade for someone that's making that much money. So it'd almost have to be someone making less than Brook. There's just not a lot of options there.
Yeah, no, definitely not, man. Milwaukee, good luck to you. I'm sure you guys will be fine though.
Yeah. And then Boston takes care of the Heat in 5 games. The
Which
Heat
I got that perfect on the
got
dot.
1. Yeah, we both got that in 5. Um, yeah, I mean, the Heat got their 1 game and then didn't show up the rest of the series. Um, it's going to be tough anyway without Jimmy. I mean, it was going to be tough with Jimmy too, being the 8 seed, but just not enough firepower. Boston's too good, and they take care of them and now await the Game 7 winner of the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell tonight goes off,
And
but
they
it wasn't
lose.
enough because he didn't get much help.
Which gives him the perfect reason to be like, I want out of here and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, so
Yep.
that's all I was thinking about
And
when
he
that
looked
was
like he
happening.
wasn't moving well at the end of this game. So hopefully for Cleveland's sake, he's able to be full strength for Game 7. The home teams won every game in this series. So if that trend continues, obviously Cleveland as the higher seed would move on. But yeah, I'm excited we got 1 Game 7. All these like awesome matchups in the first round to only have 1 Game
I
7
know, it's
is pretty
crazy.
disappointing. But we'll take it. It was like everyone's least interesting series out of
Yeah.
out of all of them. But Game 7s, win or go home, are always
On Sunday at very
yeah,
early in the day, 12 p.m.
must see TV. So we'll all be tuning in to watch that.
Shout out to Jalen Suggs, man. He had a hell of a game tonight. He was lighting him up from 3 tonight.
Yep. Man, that anyone who has a player who is a rookie who struggled, Like watching him develop now. Well, it's his third year, but that gives you hope that anyone can turn it around because he did not look good his first couple of years in the NBA.
Him and Anthony are going to be deadly next year. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone's talking about Anthony Orlando.
Man,
But
everyone thinks
yeah.
Anthony's going to trade to Orlando.
But all respect to these two teams, but you guys are fighting for the right to probably go get swept by the Celtics. So, but you guys are having fun right now. Game 7 should be fun. I'm going Cleveland to win it though at home because every home team is every time the home team has won. Does that change in Game 7? We shall see. But I'm gonna say Cavs win.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Cavs. Just the home.
Hopefully, Jarrett Allen can play because that's been an underrated loss for the Cavaliers. He hasn't played the last 2 games for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's not underrated. It's huge.
Yeah. I just feel like it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But the Celtics, I mean, we said it. They shouldn't have any issues with the Heat, and something's wrong with them. And they deserve all kinds of criticism if they didn't get past the Heat. So they take care of business there. And so, yeah, in the second round, you have to assume the same thing. And now you have a potential Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks or Pacers. And no disrespect to those teams, but Boston has been head and shoulders above those two teams all season long.
It's a Mickey Mouse path, as
right.
they would say.
So, I mean, this is laid out perfect. Obviously, between the 4 teams that are left in the West, those are all going to be good matchups in the finals. But I mean, Boston, at the very least, as of right now, I think their season is a failure if they do not
get to the finals.
If they're not the East champion.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that too. The path is set for them, man. It is absolutely set for them.
All right, so
do we go to the West
Miami?
Now?
No, Miami Heat. Let's just talk about Miami them for a second. We obviously have dealt with Heat culture and all that kind of stuff since last summer on July 1st when Dame requests out of Portland and requests to only be traded to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat don't end up making many moves last summer. They draft Jaime Jaquez, who had a good rookie year, but didn't really do much else during the season. They trade for Terry Rozier, but he's hurt. And it doesn't help them all at all in the playoffs. So do you think this is I mean, it's crazy if the Heat run it back again and just be like, okay, here we go. We're going to just Heat culture. We're going to do the same thing again, right? They have to make a big move, right?
I think they're going to run it back, weirdly enough, because here's what's going to happen, right? I think that every single team they try to make a trade with they're going to want Jaime Jaquez or whatever, and Miami is going to refuse to give him up. That's my opinion. I just feel like that's going to be the story. Pat Riley has done it in the past with like guys like Hero. Will Hero be? Maybe they trade Hero. Maybe that could be an obvious thing to do. Is what you trade him for? I have no clue. That remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean the biggest name for them, of course, is Donovan Mitchell. If they pulled that off, they're going to be. It's almost similar to if they would have gotten Damian Lillard. It would be awesome for them. Would Cleveland want what Miami is going to offer? I guess Hero could be interesting next to Garland. But I don't know, man. For whatever reason, and I guess there's already been rumors about the Miami Heat are at a tipping point with Jimmy Butler. Is Jimmy gonna get mad that they don't offer an extension right away? Like, it should be an interesting offseason for Miami, but for whatever reason, I feel like their team's gonna look relatively the same next year. But maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll see.
Well, allegedly, Jimmy and Bam both wanted changes last offseason and didn't get it. They obviously both wanted Dame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Jimmy is just gonna. I think he's gonna demand that they do something.
Yeah.
And that you can't just keep doing this. But I mean, he's another player, though. I mean, if he's not healthy for the playoffs, it kind of screws their whole plan. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Miami. good luck again. I don't. Your assets are limited too, but at least you have a couple young guys you can throw in. Maybe Jovic is interesting some teams. He's been played pretty good for them. Hawkes, like you mentioned already, had a really good rookie year as well. But we'll see. We'll see what Miami does.
All right, on to the West. The Thunder end up sweeping the Pelicans. Outside of game one, seemed like a pretty easy series for them. Pelicans, as we've discussed on this show, for the second time in recent years, we needed them to lose in the play-in, and they win, hurting our draft position or our draft pick capital. But not as bad this year in terms of the level of pain. But they're another team who wins the play-in and seem to just be happy with getting there. Brandon Ingram didn't look good in that series. So let's just talk about them real quick. Do you think, much like the 76ers, that they should make sweeping changes this offseason and just go a different route? Or do you think they should just hope for health and try to run it back one more year?
No, and I already, as I said earlier, I guess David Griffin and a presser said that they can't rely on health anymore. It's time to make changes, and he basically promised that things were going to happen. I think it's time for Trey Murphy to be a full-time starter for New Orleans. So I think Ingram needs to go.
Or trade him to the Blazers.
Yeah, what every Blazers fan wants, or Trey Murphy to the Blazers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Please do so. And I've seen some Blazers fans talk about Ingram to us. Please don't do that. We do not. That would make no sense for us. But, yeah, I think trade Brandon Ingram wherever you can. Maybe Philadelphia would be interested in him. I don't know. But, yeah, I think Ingram, if you send him out the door, he's the one on an expiring contract anyway. Zion, of course, is the one that's locked up. Both Brandon Ingram and Zion both have a hard time staying healthy, so pick your poison, in my opinion. But obviously, if I'm David Griffin, I'm choosing the one with the higher ceiling, and that definitely is Zion Williamson. Yeah, I think having Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Zion as your full-time starters makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think you can keep keeping one of those guys on the bench, and that's been Murphy, of course. If you could replace your point guard in your center position, I would do that as well. I don't think Joe Val is the type of center that should be on this team anymore, but I don't, it's not going to be easy to replace him either. CJ, you're probably locked into him. I don't know if any team really is going to trade for CJ McCollum, but I guess maybe. Yeah, I think there will be sweeping changes in New Orleans. I think, without a doubt, 100% that Brandon Ingram will be on a new team next year. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. The only thing, they could deal CJ just because they have the assets to.
Yeah, they could. That's true.
Maybe just use this contract to get someone. They're a team that's just been, in my opinion, their biggest problem is they don't have that young lead guard that like the 76ers have. They have Tyrese Maxey, and so without that, it's really tough because CJ, has been okay, but he's probably past the point to where he's going to lead your team to title contention as the lead guard. And he's kind of like, I don't know if you want him as the second guard, either. He's one of those guys who's not quite good enough to be the first option, but maybe needs the ball a little too much to be an off-ball second option. So I don't know what you do there, but I think they desperately need some sort of point guard. There are some in this draft, so I don't know if they just go after a young player there or, do something in terms of trading for one.
I kind of would like DeJounte Murray on New Orleans. I think that could be interesting. I think they were interested in him at one point anyway. So yeah, I kind of like that a little bit for them.
Think like Ingram for DeJounte. Would you do that?
If the Hawks were interested in keeping around Trae Young, maybe I would try that if I'm Atlanta. I don't know if I love the ceiling of that team either, but if Atlanta's content on building around Trae Young, at least you give it, you get a different look. So yeah, that's an idea. Don't know if either team would be interested in that, but yeah, I think Murray would be cool on the Pelicans as their lead guard.
Yeah, I mean he's probably a little older than I'd want. Like I'd want someone that's closer to Zion's age. But I mean that's probably the best realistic option.
Hmm.
So yeah. I know last summer they really wanted Scoot Henderson, and
Yeah.
they thought that they would have a chance to get him. Apparently, at a certain point, Portland stopped taking phone calls on the third pick. Um,
Do you know what
they
their best offer would have been? Because they people, I feel like I heard reports around that time saying that Ingram and Zion were never on the table. So, what was their
well,
best offer? Do you know, or was that ever really something that was
well,
talked about?
here's the problem from Portland's perspective. They this is why I wanted Wiseman at the trade deadline the year before because Portland set it up to where if they traded for a guy like Zion or Brandon Ingram, they had to basically include Anthony Simons. And so maybe you could have done something with like Nurk and Nas and someone else, but um like then you don't have a center if you're trading the third pick. Like I don't know. Like it would have been clunky like trying to figure that out. So the problem is Portland obviously values Simons more than just a throw in a trade. And so maybe the third pick for Zion or Ingram might have been fair, but it wouldn't have worked for either team because
Yeah.
we didn't really have a salary to match, and Portland wasn't going to give up more than the third pick value wise. And then if they did, they needed a center option or whatever.
So yeah,
So
that
I
would have been really tough to do.
so I think what would have happened because apparently New Orleans was calling several times while Portland was on the clock, and Portland didn't even pick up the phone. Um, I think they would have given a Godfather offer of just a crap load of first round picks. And you probably could have said like 4 first, take it or leave it, because
Yeah.
they have all those Laker picks and their own
Bucks
picks
picks.
and then they have yeah, so I don't know. You could have gotten 4 first. I would have said like 3 or 4 first and Trey Murphy.
Yeah.
And I would have just said that's the terms. Like if you want Scoot, he's the first, he's a number one pick in most drafts.
Yeah.
Um, like take it or leave it. Um, and I don't know. I think New Orleans might have actually done it. You know, with the clock winding down and them being desperate to find that star guard to pair next to Zion and Ingram because they would have been able to keep both of them in that scenario. Portland could have added Trey Murphy because they had trade exceptions and stuff like that. So yeah, it would have been that would have
Been
been a really
big what if there for sure.
yeah, and it would have changed a lot of things. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe Dame still asks out, but maybe not. I don't know if Trey is enough for him to want to stay, or if that's just them trading the pick is enough of a I don't know, a symbol of their dedication to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll never know the answer to that because they didn't even want to find out what the offer was. So it's all just speculation at this point. But I
Yeah.
think if you're looking at it from the Pelicans' point of view, Scoot goes in for a secret, or not a secret, but goes in for a workout uh, outside of the top 3 teams. That's the only other team he worked out for. Like, why is he working out for a team that's picking what 13th or something? Um, so it doesn't make sense for them to work him out unless they were really
Yeah, that's true.
if people thought they had a chance to get him. And so I think David Griffin was just he had those stars in his eyes, like Scoot's going to be a star. I got to do whatever it takes to get him. And unfortunately for the Pelicans, they weren't dealing with a team that was willing to give him up either. So Portland keeps him, and New Orleans now has to find that guard somewhere else. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think they definitely need a true point guard, someone who can distribute to players and just be more of a steady, not necessarily a pound the ball and score type of guard like CJ is. More of a guy who could set up the offense and get everyone involved. Maybe they make a run after I think Tyus Jones is a free agent.
Yeah,
Someone
not be
like
bad.
that might be a good fit there if they don't have a trade option. But yeah, they're another team that's going to be, you would think, making some moves this summer.
For sure.
Uh, and the Thunder's opponent as of tonight, that is for sure now,
The
your
Western Conference Finals
your
pick is
Dallas
still alive.
Mavericks.
Yeah.
Um, man, so this, Dallas wins game 1 against the Clippers, but then the Clippers come back and win game 2. Then Dallas wins game 3, and it's like, oh, okay, they got home court. Um, all they have to do is win game 4. They're up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
But then the Clippers win game 4, and you're like, oh, wow, this series is going 7.
Yeah.
Um, and then the next 2 games, the Clippers just,
Suck,
I
man.
don't know, they just did not seem like they came to play.
It
Of
took a
course,
Paul
Kawhi's
George
back in.
legendary game in game 4 for them to win. So I think,
Yeah,
yeah, and Paul George was kind of lackluster the last 2 games. So it kind of made sense to me that this ended the way it did, especially tonight.
yeah. But so now the Thunder are playing the Dallas Mavericks.
I
Wow,
cannot wait.
this is gonna be a great
Oh,
series.
yeah. It's going to be
Luca
fun.
versus SGA, um, Kyrie versus Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
I don't know who the other Chet versus they got
Lively,
Lively and
Gafford.
Gafford and those bigs they can throw at him. Yeah, I can't wait for this series.
It's going to be a ton of
Uh,
fun.
you know, Kyrie and Luca have the experience of, um, I mean, obviously Kyrie's won a championship, been to the finals a couple times. Luca's been to the Western Conference Finals and is now pretty battle tested early in his career. And then you got the Thunder who played. They played great against the Pelicans, but it was still the Pelicans. So I don't think we can read too much into whether they're ready for this type of series or not. But if the Thunder had just handled them easily, I I don't know, man. It could be they could be a team that could go all the way.
If you
But
ask 2K, they think the Thunder is a dynasty for the next 10 years or something.
yeah,
The Thunder are like impossible to beat in the 2K right now,
does that
basically.
piss you off when you're doing
Yeah.
rebuilds?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm like, when I match up with Thunder, I'm like, oh, this is an L probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're a dynasty according to 2K. So,
nice. So yeah, we'll obviously keep an eye on this series moving forward. But the other team that lost there in that one is the Clippers, and we've talked about Paul George a lot in this show. He's a free agent. I think the Clippers have to re-sign him, but it's still, I don't know. They trade for Harden too, and Harden's a free agent. Like, you kind of have to re-sign Harden too, right?
yeah,
But are they really going to run it back with Harden
this team is going
and
nowhere
Kawhi and Paul
anytime
George?
soon.
No.
Kawhi is never gonna be healthy again, man. I'm at the point. I started thinking about why. I started thinking that Kawhi just signed that contract because he knew his knee would never be the same. So he's like, "I'll just take the
Yeah,
money now," which I never
that's
thought.
possible.
I never thought of it that way until now because, man, this Clippers team is probably never going to get over the hump. Man, they just aren't. It's not there, and they now that Kawhi is re-signed, they don't have a choice but to just keep trying. And maybe sometimes maybe one day it falls in their favor. As we know, they're going to a new arena next year, new branding and all that. So I'm gonna assume they're gonna want to keep the team as good as possible for that first season in the new arena. So yeah, you're probably re-signing James Harden. You're probably re-signing Paul George, and then good. I don't know what they do after that. Like the team is probably not going to be much different. Their assets are very limited as well. It's the Clippers. Their future is looking bleak. Especially The biggest thing is, as we say with the 76ers with Embiid or Zion with the Pelicans. If Kawhi is healthy, then you got yourself a contender. But it just never seems to happen ever. So I don't know. Maybe they just rest him the whole season and play him in the playoffs.
Do not play him yet.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that's what they're gonna do. Is that 3 seasons ago now?
Yeah.
There was a season. Okay, there was a season they made the conference finals, but he was hurt the series before. And then there was he was out like the whole next season, but everyone thought he was going to be ready to come back for the playoffs, and then he just didn't. So yeah, I don't know. Even if you send him out the whole season, will he be ready to play?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah. So I don't know if this works, because there are some really strict trade rules, depending on where you're at in the tax. And one of those new rules is there are certain thresholds if you're above that you can't combine salaries to get a bigger contract. So I was just thinking about a team we were talking about earlier, and that's Brook Lopez. If you were the Clippers and this was possible financially, would you trade like Terrence Mann and Zubac for Brook Lopez? And would you do that if you were either team?
If I'm the Bucks, yes. If I'm the Clippers, no. I'm not doing that. I feel like I'd rather have the depth if I'm the Clippers. The Bucks, on the other hand, I would definitely take the depth. Just getting 2-for-1 for Brook Lopez, because I don't know how valuable Brook Lopez is. I don't think he's that valuable going into this offseason. But
well, what I was thinking is like, I mean, Zubac doesn't really space the floor. Brook could space it for Harden and Paul George and Kawhi and stuff. But also, I mean, I think he's a little better defender still, even at his age, than Zubac is. So I just think he's a little better fit. But I mean, Terrence Mann obviously is a key part of their team. But when you have all those wings, like, does it really make sense to have the luxury of having a Terrence Mann? So I don't know. Maybe they do something there. I don't know. They had like Tyson Plumlee and stuff this year. Um, I don't know. They kind of need a big man that fits a little better with what they're doing. And I mean, I guess they have Harden. They don't really need a point guard, but it's just a weird mix of players, man. But
yeah, like I said, man,
underachieving once again.
I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. Unfortunately, it's just not there, man. The trade was a failure. It just is. I don't know what else to say. Should have kept Shea, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Doc Rivers said, I was telling Kawhi how good Shea was, or how good he's gonna be. You know, I don't know if Doc Rivers actually knew. He's kind
cap.
of a yeah.
I mean, he probably thought he was good because he was on his team, a rookie, but
yeah,
I doubt he was like, "Oh, we can't trade Shea for Paul George." Like, that's a bad trade.
Yeah, Doc is funny. He's so funny with some of the things he says, but there's two other teams.
Yeah, well, who do you think is going to win the OKC? Dallas. Are you sticking with Dallas?
Does not change.
All
we
right.
got Mavericks to the finals in the West. We're keeping it that way.
Yeah, obviously this series could go either way. But yeah, I just have a funny feeling that OKC is just going to announce their arrival in this series and take care of business. But I also could see them kind of having a tough time as these series go on and the pressure ramps up. I could see them easily fading out.
I hope it
but
goes to
I don't
7,
I
but
don't think
yeah.
it's necessarily a bad thing. I think even if OKC loses this series, unlike what we talked about with Boston in the East, I think you can say this was a good step in the right direction this season for OKC, going from a playing team last year, everyone's darlings, to being the 1 seed this year. You can't ask for a bigger jump than that. And while it does happen, occasionally, Golden State goes from losing in the first round to winning a championship the next year with a pretty young team. Um, it it's kind of rare that you don't have to at least take a few lumps in the playoffs before you get your ring. I mean, look how many years people are starting to question whether Jokic could win one. We talked about Embiid being he's never been out of the second round. So SGA, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if they lose here. Obviously, it'd probably be disappointing if you're a fan of OKC, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think you have a lot to look forward to.
It's
You
like
have
it's not like they can't get better.
right,
They got so many assets, not even funny.
hmm
So they'll be fine. Even
but yeah, I think
they're in a win-win situation, in my
yeah,
opinion, pretty much.
but I
But
just
you
have
would
a
love to
funny
win.
feeling.
Yeah, no, I can understand that feeling too, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if Oklahoma City did just trounce the Mavericks somehow. But hoping that doesn't
Yeah,
happen. Hoping it's a competitive series, but we shall see. Um,
and the last time we talked, Brady, these series were pretty much over.
yeah.
They weren't officially over, but they were, and that's uh, the Lakers end up winning a game and forcing a game five. The Minnesota Timberwolves end up sweeping the Suns.
Don't you feel stupid for
So let's
picking
start
the
there.
Suns? Like, do you feel dumb for picking the Suns? Because I feel so stupid for picking the Suns after just watching this series. I don't know. I just
I
feel so.
I feel dumb for believing that anything would be different with the Suns. I mean, they haven't been good all year. I mean, they've had a few flashes of, oh, maybe they're starting to turn around, but yeah, I feel dumb believing that they had a switch to turn on in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. Watching this
But
series
I
made
don't.
me feel so dumb for picking the Suns to
But they
win this
still have
series.
Katie and Booker and stuff,
Yeah.
and that we talked about this, but Minnesota likes to give up a lot of mid-range shots, and Booker outside of game 4 wasn't good in this series. Um, so like I don't know what his problem was. KD, like I said, is still a great player, but he's starting to show you can't necessarily carry a team anymore either. But I just thought that when you don't have a lot of depth, and you go all in on those big three, you go into the playoffs and they're all healthy. I just thought you could maybe win a series or two just based on those guys going off a few of the games, and they both go off in game 4, but then Beal was terrible, and so they didn't really get a performance where they all played well. But yeah, so I'm more disappointed that the Suns just kind of wilted or withered versus me thinking it was a bad pick necessarily. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the Timberwolves, we talked about this last episode. Anthony Edwards is just came in and said, I am the captain now. I'm the star player in this league. I'm possibly the face of the franchise or face of the league moving forward. And man, he looked phenomenal. Um, and if I'm a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, I'm thinking, why not us this year? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's wide open. These teams are all pretty evenly matched that are left in the West, and I mean, all you have to do is beat whoever comes out of the East if you've survived the West. So, I'm maybe thinking championship if I'm the Timberwolves this year. And it's crazy to say that, but man, this team just played so well, and hopefully it wasn't just because the Suns are that bad. But yeah, they got this matchup with the Denver Nuggets, the defending champs, who seemingly didn't want to win any game until the fourth quarter, and then or the second half, and then just turned it on. It's kind of like they were playing with their food in this series with the Lakers. Um, but they take care of business. Game 5 could have gone either way. Denver's pretty lucky they won that game. Another Jamal Murray, not quite buzzer beater, but game-winning shot at the end. His second of the series. But with Minnesota having already swept, I didn't think the Nuggets wanted to make this series go very long. So, like I said, good for them to take care of business. And man, Jokic versus Gobert, um, Anthony Edwards versus Jamal Murray. Like this series has it all. Another fascinating matchup. Just awesome. This is going to be great entertainment, and really looking forward to it. Who do you like in this series?
Yeah, the Western playoffs second round is going to be cinema. It's going to be so much fun. Denver, Minnesota. They played each other last in the first round, but I think this is a Minnesota team that's more ready for the moment. As you said, the Nuggets kind of played with the Lakers led for a majority of the series and still lost, which is kind of crazy to say. But the Nuggets have the ability to turn it on at any time. I'm assuming they're going to take the Timberwolves more serious. I assume anyway. This should be. It's going to be fun. When I did my bracket, I had the Suns making it, and I chose the Nuggets to beat them, of course. Minnesota and Denver, it's tough for me to decide. I would not be surprised if it went either way. But right now, I would respect the Nuggets at this very moment. I want to see Minnesota do it again. But I would not. It would not surprise me if they came. If this was their moment. This was their year, like you said. Why not us? If they're playing with a whole level of confidence. Anthony Edwards has been phenomenal. Cat and Edwards looks like he has control of the locker room at his age, which is nice to see. That post game presser where he was like, looks like Cat was really looking up to Edwards as a leader. It was really cool to see. He's like, just stop fouling. We need you on the floor and stuff like that. So, yeah, just great moment. Minnesota. I'm rooting for him. I think this would be a cool moment to see them make it all the way to the conference finals after all the failures they have had in the past. Why not them, man? And this offseason could be interesting because of the new CBA and the amount of bigs they're paying. But don't look into that. Right now I would go Nuggets in 7. But man, this should be a fun series. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I had the Nuggets being the West representative in the finals before the playoffs started. I'm not going to change that pick, but man, I'm very tempted to change it
Yeah,
the
me
way
too. I
Minnesota
am
played.
tempted. Yeah.
But I'm just going to say that the experience and the MVP Jokic gets it done. Um, and Denver had some games where they shot very poorly from three. Jamal Murray, outside of some of those game winners, didn't shoot the ball particularly well in some of the games. So I'm going to say that the Nuggets have a much better shooting series than they just had and get the job done. But man, it's going to be a battle.
Oh yeah.
And between these two series in the West, um, unlike what we talked about with the Celtics, uh, it might just be which team uh, gets out of the battle the cleanest and
Mm-hmm.
least injured and quickest.
Yeah.
Not having to go 7 games like if one of
It's
these
wide
series only
open, man.
goes 5 instead of 7. Um, that could be a huge factor in who moves on in the next round. So, yeah, Denver has the home court advantage, which also is key. Having to play an elevation um, several of the games for Minnesota that might play a factor in this as well. But yeah, really looking forward to all these series.
All right, but we got to end the video talking about the Suns and the Lakers' future. We got to
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's start
Uh,
with the Lakers because I want to save the Suns for last, to be
all
honest with
right.
you. I
I
got
know
a
you're
lot.
ready to go off.
I got a lot to say about the
Your
Suns,
boy
but
Matt Ishbia and Bradley Beal.
yeah,
All
we'll
right.
get to that. But the Lakers, they just fired Darvin Ham, dismissed him today. Woj announced, which was to be expected.
Mm.
as far as who they hire, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of rumors about JJ Redick potentially. I don't know if that's the best idea in the world. Getting a new head coach coming in to coach LeBron, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, but I guess you can give it a shot. I know LeBron respects
Well, they
JJ
did a
Redick.
podcast together. So.
Yeah, I know they respect each other or whatever. So we'll see if they do that. To me, this feels like an offseason, like where I've said, kind of what I said with the 76ers. But I could see the Lakers' point of view maybe wanting a third star because LeBron is as old as he is. Like, I could see the point, maybe you don't want. Because the Lakers, it's not like the Lakers have bad role players. They could improve a little bit. Like, getting a better backup five would probably, go a long way. You don't really want Hayes to be that guy. And there's some other things you could work on. But I kind of like, and then maybe. So, like, to me, the most obvious is one of the Hawks guards, whether it's Murray or Trae Young. Going out, they were very interested in Murray at the deadline. Didn't happen. Trae Young could make a lot of sense for the Lakers for sure, especially to take some pressure off LeBron James. But I don't like that. I don't know. It feels like that's probably what's going to end up happening is one of the Hawks guards ends up being a Laker. But things change. Maybe some other star pops out and the Lakers can go get them instead. So yeah, I could see the Lakers not wanting to fill out their roster with role players instead of because as old as LeBron, LeBron's playing at a great level, but he's 40. Like, I don't know if you want to rely on him,
LeBron hasn't announced whether he's retiring or not yet, Brady.
That's true, and he may not re-sign with the Lakers too.
Yeah, that's always possible.
To me, it feels inevitable that the Lakers will draft Bronny and keep LeBron around. And Shams, interestingly enough, he said that LeBron is probably looking at least playing 2 more years, which I thought it would only be 1, but if he was willing to play for 2 more years, then I
don't want LeBron to retire. I hope he plays a couple more years. It's just so weird thinking about him like old enough to be retired. I know he's how old he is, but like it just makes me feel old, man.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
There's also I talked about this over on Blazers Uprise, but there's this rumor that now LeBron isn't prioritizing playing with Bronny, which I think is what I think is happening is LeBron wants to stay with LA. He wants Bronny to be on LA if he goes into the draft. I mean, it's still possible that Bronny pulls his name out of the draft and it's still another year, so it might not come into play. Maybe then LeBron signs another one of these contracts where he could opt out again next year and have that option. But I think what this is he's trying to convince other teams not to draft Bronny just to maybe get him because he doesn't want to go play for like Portland or Philly or whatever. Like he wants the Lakers to get Bronny and he can just stay home. But yeah, so I think that's what it is. I don't buy it for a second that all of a sudden he doesn't want to play with Bronny. Maybe a little bit of it is he's just trying to take the pressure off of him being LeBron's son.
Yeah.
Or most people think he's only getting drafted because of his dad and not because he has any kind of basketball ability. Which I mean, to some extent is fair. To some extent, I think people are kind of just glossing over the fact that he like almost died and couldn't play basketball for several months and tried to come back in the middle of the season and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a freshman. I do think he has some skills that translate to the NBA. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they find a way to get Bronny, and then they keep LeBron. Man, I think Trae Young is like a really weird fit for most teams because you have to have a really good defensive lineup. And I don't know if the Lakers have enough defensive pieces. Obviously, I have Anthony Davis, who's a great defender. So I think in terms of landing spots for Trae Young, that's about one of the best pairing him with Anthony Davis. And then if you still have LeBron, who's not really good on defense now, but I mean, he has flashes of it still, or times where he can be effective. And then so you just got to add, if you do that, you got to find a way to get one more quality like wing defender, in my opinion. A guy like Alex Caruso, who they had, would be perfect. Um, Unfortunately, it's probably going to be too expensive to try and get him back. Um, but I don't know, someone else like um, well, KCP going back to LA would be a good fit as well. He potentially could be a free agent if he opts out. So yeah, they have some options maybe. But unlike what Draymond Green said on his podcast, I don't know if you saw that, Brady.
No, I
Uh,
probably didn't.
he said basically, if you knew how the cap works, the Lakers could not just not sign LeBron and then go out and use that money to sign someone else and then re-sign LeBron and go way over the cap, which is not how it works. His cap hold would erase any cap space they had, so they can't even sign anyone with that money. Um, the only way they'd have that money is if he left and signed with another team and not on the team anymore. So it's either they keep LeBron and don't have cap space, or they don't keep LeBron and have it. So, or I guess LeBron could sign for like the minimum or something, but he's
Yeah,
not going to do that.
probably not.
But I mean, if I was the Lakers, I'd be like, hey, I know if you want to win, this is how we get a start. But
Yeah, we can
because
steal
then they
Paul
could go to
George.
Paul George
Yeah,
or yeah, someone
that'd
like
be,
that.
that'd be wild. That'd be crazy if that happened.
Yeah, but they probably use that money to sign like Tobias Harris or something. Like,
Imagine. Oh my gosh.
but yeah, I think I don't know. Like D'Angelo Russell had his moments this year, but I just think
He won't be back. I
he's
don't
too
think he'll be.
volatile to be
Yeah,
like he's too up and down. Like, and he's I don't know. Like his his mindset and his attitude, I don't think are the right complement for that team. So I would, if I'm them, I'm praying he opts out of his contract. Actually, it wouldn't be bad if he opted in because
they could trade him.
then
Yeah.
they'd have his contract. So I guess maybe they're hoping he does opt in. But yeah, I'm moving on for him, whether it's trade or just letting him walk in free agency.
Which, by the way, I kind of like the idea of D'Lo in Orlando too. I don't think that'd be too bad because there'd be less pressure in Orlando, and I think he'd
Yeah.
be a pretty good fit for what they need. But that's like one of the teams I can think for D'Lo if he was moved. That would make somewhat sense. But it's time to talk about the Phoenix Suns, man. To me, Matt
Well,
Ishbia when he go ahead.
I would say, for the record, before you get going, Brady absolutely loves Bradley Beal
Oh
and thought
no,
that he
no,
thought that was the best trade
no, I did
ever
not.
in the history of the
No,
NBA, right?
no,
No,
never
that's not what
thought
you're gonna say.
that. No, not at all.
I
To
swear that's
me,
what you said.
no. To me, Matt Ishbia is no better than that Brooklyn Nets owner at one time. To me, in my opinion, just based off, and it even further solidifies that based off the delusion that he has going with himself right now. Kevin Durant, no one blames you for that. Do that 9 out of 10. I think every GM does that. Makes sense. But Bradley Beal and trading all the leftover pick swaps you had and everything else you had to where you don't have a control of a pick until 2031 is just you have the most untrade, maybe one of the worst contracts in history, and Bradley Beal having a no trade clause, and he was terrible. He was the reason they lost Game 4. He had 2 terrible turnovers down the stretch. He goes out there and says, I've never been swept a day in my life. And I heard a funny, metaphor to that. That's like saying that you've never been rejected by a girl because you never asked them out or something like that.
Right.
And I know Beal's been in the playoffs before. Don't get me wrong.
Times. Yeah.
But like it's just that's what it felt like. It's not like he's been in the playoffs every year to where he has a right to say that. So that was dumb. But yeah, he's definitely the most untradeable contract in the league. There's not a single team that would trade for him right now. He has a trade kicker, I believe, as well if he was traded. So like, just terrible. I never. And looking back at it, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Durant's like skill sets are like so similar that it's like negated basically. Like they don't even really. I don't even really. They don't really support each other at all. Like it does not support their skill sets. So in looking back at it, to think this team was going to beat Minnesota or just be successful in any means was just dumb to think about. Just the way they looked was absolutely terrible. And icing on the cake is James Jones saying, "Oh, we believe no one's optimized around Kevin Durant," or something like that, or something along the lines of
No
like,
team has been able to optimize
yeah,
it. Yeah.
just so dumb.
What are you
I'm like,
talking about?
the Warriors were one of the best
He
teams.
was the Finals MVP.
Yeah, it's just so dumb. And then Matt Ishbia saying 26 of the 29 teams in the NBA would trade everything, draft pick, whole roster, in a heartbeat or something like that. What? Tell me those teams right now. Tell me, because I can name definitely more than 3 that wouldn't do that. Minnesota's not doing that. The team that just beat you, we'll trade you rosters. Why not? And your draft picks, we'll do that. Boston's not doing that. Denver's definitely not doing that. Oklahoma City, you think they're doing that? No. I don't know.
They're gonna give up all their picks, Brady. They don't care.
So that to me was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And Phoenix should be very, very afraid. And us as Blazers fans, we want a new owner that's super aggressive, but I do not want that. And yes, round of applause for going all in. It didn't work. I get it, but to sit there and lie and to double down and we're in a great spot. The house is not on fire at all. We're not freaking out by any means. They're cooked, man. That's all I gotta say. If that's the guy running the organization for years to come, they are done for. That's all I gotta say. The one thing I will say is they can recuperate some assets if they did move Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. They could save this in that way. And again, running it back next year. Running it back next year makes sense. But how do you improve? And he already said, I didn't know he said this part, but he already said the starting 5 was coming back no matter what. Okay, I guess. I don't know.
Well, they're under contract, I guess.
Yeah, they're all under contract, so that makes sense. But you just extended Grayson Allen, who did get hurt. Nurkic, not really that great of a factor in the series whatsoever. And I don't know, man. It's just they're screwed in my opinion. That's all it boils down to. And Matt Ishbia put them in this spot, and to sit there and say, it's fine to, say that you don't feel like the house is on fire, but to sit there and say that 26 of the 29 teams would trade you rosters, assets as constructed right now is just so delusional. It's not even funny. And if I heard that as a Suns fan, I would be scared. That's all I gotta say.
Well, did you hear what he said about draft picks too?
No, I did, or maybe I did. Remind me though.
I'm gonna try to. We'll try to get this exact quote. Hold on just a second.
And also, round of applause for the TV deal thing. That was cool. Like, allowing all Suns fans to watch it. Watch games. That's great. Love to see that. But yeah, man, he went from probably one of the most. I feel like Suns fans loved him to probably are all shaking, scared of this guy running their team.
All right, so this is the Suns plan to shop the 22nd overall pick, and once the draft happens, or I guess before the draft, they can agree to it just to take place after the draft. They'll have their 2031 first available to trade. And so this is Matt Ishbia's view on the draft picks moving forward. If fans like to look in the future and say, hey, I really like that 2031 draft pick because maybe that 7th grader is going to be really good and we're going to draft them and one day he's going to be a player, you ain't going to like the Phoenix Suns because we're going to say draft picks are to get great players.
Oh, my gosh.
So he's already... those picks are already gone, Brady.
I'm telling you, man, it's Billy King and that whatever that Russian owner's name was. It's the same thing all over. Yeah, Prokhorov or whatever. Same thing all over again. Ask Billy King how that went for him. Ask him because he saw guys like.
Well, thank you, Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. Colin Sexton, Damian Lillard, some other names I'm sure I'm forgetting. Jaylen Brown as well. All got drafted with their picks. And as you mentioned, Damian Lillard trade. He trades the whatever, I forgot what protections it was on that pick, but he trades
It
that
was
pick.
top 3.
Yeah, for Gerald freaking Wallace
Yeah.
because he hated that draft and screwed draft picks. And that's the mentality you have. You are most teams swear by building through the draft, and I think that's the best way to do things because homegrown talent. You get to lock them up for 8 or 10 years or whatever it may be. That's the best way to do things. And that's how the Warriors have been successful. That's how the Nuggets have been successful. And that's how the Thunder have been successful. Of course, they trade for Shea or whatever, but just for him to sit here and say that, hey, we don't believe in draft picks, but that's how, Mavericks, they drafted Luka. Like, how you get it just does not make any sense, man. It does not make a lick of sense.
A team, I mean, obviously they got the number 1 pick in Tim Duncan, but the Spurs back in the day, they supplemented their roster and made their window much greater by valuing draft picks. They get Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard later on. And then they have another resurgence towards the end of all their careers because of that Kawhi Leonard pick. And so if I'm the Suns right now, I mean, they have the 22nd pick. Tyrese Maxey was the 21st pick a few years ago. And I'm not saying they're going to get a player like that, but just think if you hit on a draft pick versus signing like a vet min guy or trading that pick for a guy making I mean, they can't even trade for anyone making any money. Like, let's just say, like, we wanted to give them Malcolm Brogdon for whatever contract they wanted to match. I don't even think with their contract situation, because we're not taking Beal and Beal's not
We're
accepting
not
a trade
taking
here.
Nurkic back, so
Well, they can't even trade Nurkic because they have to
oh yeah, they
trade
can't
out
they
a
can't
player
aggregate
that's
contracts.
more
Yeah,
money than Brogdon's contract. So they can't even trade for Brogdon unless they give up one of their big 3. So like even if they wanted a player like that and could get him for free, they can't. So who are you going to get with like the 22nd pick and the 31st pick that's making less than Nurkic's salary or whoever else, Nas Little or whoever else you're trading out? It doesn't. I don't know how they're going to pull that off. So to me, it's stupid to think about it in those terms because if you trust your scouts and you find a player that can be a contributor or, you know, possibly a starting level player with that 22nd pick down the road. And I know it's a weak draft, but I mean, he's talking about in terms of every draft is going to be like this going forward to where we don't need to draft players. So, um, it just that makes no sense to me. Like you said, it seems like for a while there was this it was trending towards try to put together the best 3 players you can find and then fill in the pieces and try to make a super team. But now it's more I think it's much more suited towards growth. And the Embiid talked about this with Maxi. It's like, well, because we're patient and we we're going to play together for a couple more years and we have like a lot of room to grow still and we have a lot of options in the young team. Whereas if they would have like traded Maxi for Harden or Dame or something, maybe their window is like they have a bigger window this year, but maybe it's like it definitely shortens their window long term. So I don't know, man. It's just it makes no sense the way they went about it. And then on top of that, I mean, the roster construction, you know, you need better center depth and you need a point guard. But that's the exact type of player they need. They needed is a guy who can set up the offense and do all that kind of stuff. And it's still puzzling to me why they didn't address that at the deadline. But short of pulling something off and getting that type of player, I don't know how they just fix this by trading those picks.
and this year is literally a perfect example of why the draft is the best way to build. Oklahoma City, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. Guess what? They drafted those guys. Mavericks, as I mentioned earlier, they drafted Luka Doncic. You have the Nuggets, who
Lively,
drafted.
too.
Yeah, Lively. You have the Nuggets, who drafted Michael Porter, Nikola Jokic. Of course, they have supplemented with and Jamal Murray. They've supplemented with Aaron Gordon and KCP, but those are moves that didn't kill them. And then you got Boston, who actually benefited off one of those big trades. So Brooklyn, as much as I thought Brooklyn was in a terrible spot, they might be in a great spot in the future. Like, they're probably going to be in a fantastic spot. I understand they don't have their picks, but Phoenix's picks in the future, I guarantee, are going to be super, super valuable. But yeah, Boston, they have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all guys that they drafted. And then not Milwaukee, sorry. Jalen Brunson, or Knicks are a little bit of a different example. Of course, they got Jalen Brunson in free agency. But as you see, most of these teams that, and remains to be seen whether the Cavs or the Magic make it. But, of course, the Cavs have drafted Mobley, Garland. The Magic have drafted Wagner and Banchero. So I don't know why Ishbia thinks he's some genius that can just beat the system. But like I said, Phoenix, good luck to you, because you may have gotten one of the worst owners you could possibly get, which sucks. And they had a terrible owner before that. So this might just be in a different way.
I'll tell you what, though, Brady. Ishbia is talking about trading the 2031 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Any team that gets that, I'm automatically saying they won the trade. I don't even care who they gave up. They won that trade, right? That pick, dude, I want that pick. If I'm a Blazer fan, I don't know who we would trade for him. Like I said, it was going to be difficult trading with them. But if you could somehow get a 2031 unprotected pick from them, man, I think they're going to have a very tough time keeping. Well, obviously, KD would probably be retired by then. And he probably had played for 6 more teams by that point. Beal is not going to be good anymore. And so you might still have a little bit of Booker, but I mean, that's 7 years from now still. Man, I'm doing everything I can to get that pick.
I agree. And dude, their franchise player Booker is someone they drafted. I don't, bro.
It wasn't even a high pick. He was the 11th pick or 12th pick or something.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man.
13th maybe.
I don't understand the philosophy that maybe he's looking at the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL because they traded for all these guys, won the Super Bowl, but it's a totally different sport though. But
especially, all you have to do is go back to the 2020 draft where they took Jalen Smith over Tyrese Haliburton, and that's think
Josh Jackson and
just think of how much different things would be if they just took Haliburton.
Oh yeah, the Suns' draft history is terrible. So maybe he thinks that way, but it just still
And outside of the Chris Paul trade, what the heck has James Jones done?
That's true.
I don't know, man.
Because it feels like Ishbia has taken over pretty much. He's been kind of like the GM basically.
And then it came out that Vogel was begging them to trade for a point guard or just get one point guard on the roster, please. Just give me someone. And they were like, no, we don't want touches to be taken away from Beal and Booker and KD and stuff.
And they haven't.
It doesn't necessarily. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to take away touches. You just need a point guard on a roster or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Whether Frank, it'll be interesting if they do fire Vogel. I don't know if any head coach is solving this roster. It's just the NBA is just not like that anymore, man. You cannot have a top heavy roster and expect it to produce. You need a bunch of role players that play at a high level. That's just where the NBA has gone. The Big Three era is died. It just has. Don't get me wrong, you can still do it the right way, but you got to have a roster of role players, and the Suns just don't have that. They got the rotation from the Blazers last year as far as their center rotation is concerned. That was a recipe for disaster. They even lost a second-round pick for getting Eubanks, because of tampering.
Well, what? Draft picks don't matter, so it probably doesn't matter.
Well, we don't care. We got Eubanks and whatever. Yeah, man. I don't know. Phoenix, good luck, bro. Like I said.
See, I still don't necessarily think the Beal move was as bad as you think it was. I think that was like as good as they could have gotten with what they gave up for him. But I do understand that like it's not the greatest fit, but to me, I still think it's more of a problem with what they put around him. And then you're willing to trade DeAndre Ayton for um, pieces, you know. Like I think if they had Ayton this year, um, I mean, assuming with a new coach, maybe he plays a little differently, but you know, maybe that's different, or maybe you know, if they would have traded him the year before for like a Miles Turner or something, um, I don't know, but to me, it was just they didn't do enough to put the right pieces around those three, and they at the trade deadline they trade for a bunch of wings, and like it just makes no sense, dude. Like I don't know what they're doing. You can't just trade for players and hope that it works out when you have no one that fills roles that you have to have in the NBA, like a distributor for those three guys and you know, a center rotation that can actually play in the playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I said, man, I don't know where the Phoenix Suns fan base is at with him right now. I just know if I was a Suns fan, I'd be traumatized and just scared right now. And
Yeah.
when the Blazers get a new owner, I hope and pray we don't get somebody that stupid. That's all I'm gonna say.
I last thing on the Suns, I this can't happen because Beal would say no, but I would take Beal for that 2031
Oh
pick.
my god.
Screw it. Just pay him the 160 million or whatever
Oh my goodness.
over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Like that's how valuable that 2031 pick might be, right?
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Uh, but yeah, he's not gonna. He has a no trade clause, so he can just say no to like most of the teams in the league. So I wonder if they'd even shop him, or like what teams would be interested in him.
Nobody.
The Heat, maybe.
I don't think there's a single team trading for Beal right now, bro. I really
Would
don't.
would you? Wait, he makes like 50 million.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
that's what I'm
think.
saying.
Would you, if you were the Heat, would you trade like Hero and Duncan Robinson and whoever else matches if you didn't have to give Jovic or Hawkes?
Oh man, that's tough.
I think Beal
Uh,
fits a little better with Bam
that
and
might be the
Jimmy. He
one
should have just
idea.
accepted. Like, why did he force his way to Phoenix? He should have forced his way to the Heat.
Yeah, he'd fit way better in Miami for sure. He would have fit way better. Because like I said, Durant and Beal and Booker's skill sets are just so redundant. So like I think
Yeah,
him and Miami would have been a little bit better. Um, yeah, I guess like that's not. If I'm Miami, I'm not sure I could do much better for Hero. So maybe, but I don't know,
that's
man.
like the one team I think that could still maybe make a play for him.
Yeah, I guess so, but uh, I still don't see it happening.
Yeah, maybe not.
But all right,
All right, so we got second round starting, and we'll look forward to that game 7. Also, so we're May 12th. We're filming this on May 3rd/May 4th for you. So if you're watching this when it came out, it's Saturday, May 4th. We have 8 days until the draft lottery, so we can maybe talk about that a little bit next week. And then obviously we have the game 7 we'll talk about between the Cavs and the Magic, and then almost these second round series should be a few games in by then, so we'll talk about those as well. So yeah, fun stuff. At some point this offseason, we have to have some juicy Blazer rumors or something to talk
yeah,
about, right? Like we need to talk about some trades, some actual rumors, not just what we think they should do and stuff like that. So hopefully some of the rumor trains start to heat up around the NBA in terms of what these teams are going to do. And yeah, just I can't wait to get into the meat of the offseason here. It's so close to happening, and we're so close to finding out where our Blazers pick in the draft and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be fun moving forward. Brady, you got
Also,
everything else for this episode? You got something else?
I was just gonna say I will be a new age next episode too. So this is
Oh,
my last
when's your
time.
birthday?
My last time being my Kobe year. It is on the 7th, so 3 days from now. I'll
Oh,
be 25. So
well, happy early birthday.
thank you.
On the 7th, everyone wish Brady a happy birthday on social media or his channel or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that's it for me, man. I've talked long enough about the Suns.
You'll be 25?
Yeah, 25.
Nice. I'm so much older than
Uh,
you. I'm turning 45 this year.
oh man. All right.
20 years older. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. And be sure to like the video. It's the easiest way to show your support. Also, once again, go make sure you check out Brady's Crushables YouTube channel and also the Blazers Uprise main channel. We stream twice a week on Monday and Thursday evenings. And Torrey just released his Scoot Henderson player review of the season. He went deep into film breakdown on it. I know he spent many hours on it. So go check that out over on Blazers Uprise, as well as all of Crushables videos. And thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you guys next week. But until then, peace out.
Go Blazers.
Go Blazers.